Chocolate has long been associated with warmth, comfort, and indulgence, a treat savored during quiet moments or shared between loved ones. Yet, amid the turmoil and destruction of World War II, this simple confection assumed a role that few could have imagined. It became a tool of strategy, survival, and even subterfuge. Soldiers in muddy trenches, pilots soaring through perilous skies, and spies operating behind enemy lines found in chocolate not merely a sweet distraction, but a compact source of energy, morale, and, in some cases, literal sustenance. The transformation of chocolate from a luxury into a wartime necessity illustrates how ingenuity can turn the familiar into a weapon, reshaping perceptions of something as everyday as candy. In military rations, chocolate offered more than taste. It delivered concentrated calories, essential nutrients, and a psychological lift when troops faced extreme exhaustion or disorientation. Armies recognized that a small, portable item could significantly affect performance and morale. Beyond the front lines, chocolate was cleverly incorporated into espionage operations, disguised or modified to conceal maps, instructions, or even explosives. Its unassuming appearance made it an ideal vehicle for secret communications, demonstrating that a treat meant to delight could also carry hidden weighty purposes. The role of chocolate extended beyond practical utility to the subtler, yet equally powerful, realm of morale. Letters, packages, and gifts sent from home often included chocolate, offering fleeting moments of normalcy and emotional sustenance in a world fractured by conflict. For soldiers, these small comforts were reminders of human connection, a taste of what they were fighting for, and a symbol that life, sweet, ordinary, and beautiful, persisted even amid chaos. This story, while centered on a humble confection, ultimately weaves together the human and historical threads of the war. It reveals how necessity, creativity, and even whimsy intersected to transform chocolate from mere indulgence into a surprisingly versatile instrument of war. As we delve into the tales of innovation, courage, and ingenuity, it becomes clear that the journey of chocolate during World War II is far more than a culinary anecdote. It is a testament to the resourcefulness of humanity when faced with extraordinary circumstances, a story that bridges the battlefield, the home front, and the secret corridors of intelligence. Before World War II, chocolate occupied a curious space between indulgence and accessibility. At the turn of the 20th century, it was often perceived as a luxurious treat, something to be enjoyed sparingly by those who could afford it. European chocolatiers, particularly in Switzerland, Belgium, and France, perfected the art of chocolate making, transforming cocoa beans into smooth, rich confections that captivated the palate. These early creations were painstakingly crafted, often involving labor-intensive processes to refine flavor and texture, which reinforced chocolate's status as a symbol of refinement and exclusivity. For much of the population, chocolate was a rare pleasure, reserved for special occasions or gifts, rather than a daily indulgence. However, the industrialization of food production began to change this dynamic. Advances in machinery, mechanized grinding, and tempering techniques allowed chocolate to be produced on a much larger scale, reducing costs and increasing availability. Companies like Hershey in the United States pioneered mass production, transforming chocolate from an artisan specialty into a commodity that could be widely consumed. Marketing campaigns emphasized not only taste but also nutrition and energy, framing chocolate as both a treat and a practical, fortifying snack. As affordability increased, chocolate shifted in cultural perception, from a luxury accessible only to the privileged to a near-ubiquitous presence in households, shops, and cafes. By the 1920s and 1930s, chocolate had firmly embedded itself in everyday life. Candy bars, chocolate-covered nuts, and milk chocolate confections became commonplace, and the confectionery industry experienced a boom that reached across continents. Chocolate was no longer merely a symbol of wealth or status. It became a source of pleasure, comfort, and energy for a broad demographic. Children looked forward to sweet snacks. Adults reached for chocolate as a small indulgence, and gift-giving traditions incorporated chocolate as a token of affection. Its dual role as both a treat and a mild stimulant helped position it as a versatile commodity with practical applications that went beyond mere taste. This evolution in accessibility and cultural significance set the stage for chocolate's remarkable transformation during wartime. What had once been a luxury reserved for enjoyment now possessed the qualities of portability, energy density, and mass appeal, features that would become invaluable when military planners, engineers, and supply officers sought compact, morale-boosting, and multi-purpose rations for soldiers. The journey from luxury to everyday commodity was crucial. It created the infrastructure, production techniques, and public familiarity that made chocolate ready for the extraordinary demands of global conflict. As chocolate became more accessible in civilian life, military strategists began to recognize its unique potential in the context of warfare. Unlike typical provisions, chocolate offered a remarkable combination of high caloric density, portability, and durability, making it an ideal addition to soldiers' rations. A small block could contain hundreds of calories, quickly replenishing energy stores in situations where conventional meals were impractical. This made it particularly valuable in scenarios requiring sustained physical exertion, long marches, rapid deployments, or aerial missions, where every ounce of portable nourishment counted. Its dense composition also meant that soldiers could carry significant energy without the bulk or spoilage issues associated with other foodstuffs, a logistical advantage that quickly drew the attention of military planners. Beyond physical sustenance, chocolate offered psychological benefits that proved equally vital. In the chaos of battle, small comforts could become lifelines of morale. A piece of chocolate could evoke memories of home, provide a fleeting sense of normalcy, or simply offer a momentary respite from the stress, fear, and monotony of military life. Commanders noted that troops who received chocolate rations often exhibited higher spirits, increased motivation, and a tangible sense of care from the supply chain, a subtle yet powerful tool in maintaining cohesion and resilience under pressure. In this way, chocolate functioned as both sustenance and strategy, blending the practical with the emotional in a way few other provisions could. Early examples of military incorporation illustrate this dual utility. During World War I, soldiers occasionally received chocolate in their rations, but these were primarily luxury supplements rather than standard-issue necessities. By the 1930s, armed forces in several nations, particularly the United States, began formalizing chocolate's role in survival kits and combat rations. The U.S. Army, for example, commissioned companies to produce compact, fortified chocolate bars specifically designed for soldiers. These bars were often engineered to resist melting, provide extra vitamins, and even taste less appealing than commercial chocolate to prevent overconsumption in the field. They became integral to K-rations and emergency packs, carried in pockets or backpacks, ready to deliver quick bursts of energy in moments of extreme exertion or stress. Portability was another key advantage. Unlike canned foods or fresh provisions, chocolate required no cooking, minimal storage, and could endure the rigors of transportation across oceans, deserts, and frozen landscapes. Its resilience made it particularly suited for paratroopers, pilots, and other troops operating in isolated or high-risk environments. Soldiers often reported keeping chocolate on hand as an emergency ration when supplies ran low, illustrating its practical role in survival beyond mere comfort. In some cases, the bars were even designed to withstand environmental extremes, with wax coatings or compact packaging ensuring they remained usable under harsh conditions. Ultimately, chocolate's integration into military operations reflected a convergence of necessity, ingenuity, and understanding of human psychology. Its ability to provide energy, convenience, and emotional comfort simultaneously made it indispensable, bridging the gap between nutrition and morale in ways that few other items could. The groundwork laid by these early rations would later evolve into more sophisticated applications, from specialized energy bars to covert uses in espionage, demonstrating that what began as a simple treat had transformed into a critical instrument of wartime strategy. While the practical benefits of chocolate in sustaining energy and providing portable nutrition were well understood by military planners, Its true power often lay in subtler, more profound effects: the ability to lift spirits, restore a sense of normalcy, and connect soldiers to home. In the grim reality of war, where mud-choked trenches, endless marches, and the constant threat of enemy fire defined daily life, the presence of a small, sweet treat could spark moments of solace and resilience that no ration list or caloric count could fully capture. Care packages from families became a vital conduit for this emotional sustenance. Soldiers recounted the indescribable joy of opening parcels filled with letters, photographs, and chocolate, a tangible reminder that they were remembered, valued, and loved. One infantryman stationed on the Western Front described the sensation of biting into a chocolate bar from home as a brief return to childhood, a taste of life before the war, and a whisper that there were still simple joys worth fighting for. These small tokens of affection did more than provide energy. They carried with them emotional weight, forging a sense of connection across miles of conflict and cementing bonds between the front lines and the home front. The psychological impact of chocolate extended beyond personal care packages. Military authorities recognized that morale itself was a critical component of operational effectiveness. Troops who were fatigued, hungry, or disheartened were less likely to perform optimally, while those receiving small comforts, including chocolate, displayed greater resilience under stress. In some units, chocolate became a ritualized reward, a symbol of accomplishment after grueling marches or successful missions. Sharing a bar among comrades not only provided sustenance but fostered camaraderie, reinforcing the sense that no one faced hardship alone. This dual function, nourishment and morale, elevated chocolate from mere confection to psychological instrument, an emotional prop in the theater of human endurance. Civilians, too, felt the soft power of chocolate. In war-torn cities and towns, chocolate's availability became a small but meaningful reprieve from the pervasive scarcity and anxiety. For children growing up amid rationing and air raids, a square of chocolate was a brief escape into sweetness, a reminder that some pleasures could survive even the darkest times. Philanthropic organizations and local communities often coordinated chocolate drives, sending parcels to soldiers and distributing sweets to children, reinforcing a shared sense of purpose and care that bridged front lines and home communities. These gestures, while seemingly minor, helped preserve social cohesion and emotional well-being, demonstrating that morale was not only a matter of military discipline but also of shared human experience. The narratives of soldiers vividly illustrate chocolate's enduring impact. Pilots on long reconnaissance flights recounted keeping small chocolate bars tucked in their uniforms, consuming them to stave off both hunger and mental fatigue during hours of isolation. Infantrymen in harsh climates, where rations were otherwise bland and monotonous, recalled the way chocolate could momentarily lift spirits, spark laughter among comrades, and remind them of life outside the battlefield. Its effect was cumulative. Even brief moments of pleasure contributed to mental stamina, enabling soldiers to persevere through conditions that might otherwise have broken their resolve. Ultimately, chocolate's role as a morale booster underscores the intricate interplay between physical sustenance and emotional support. It highlights how small comforts, seemingly inconsequential in isolation, can compound to create resilience, hope, and a sense of continuity amidst chaos. From care packages to shared treats among soldiers, chocolate became more than food. It became a vessel for memory, connection, and humanity, sustaining both body and spirit in equal measure. This emotional dimension set the stage for chocolate's further evolution into specialized applications, including covert uses in espionage and strategic operations, demonstrating that its power extended far beyond sweetness alone. Beyond its well-documented role as sustenance and morale booster, chocolate assumed an unexpected position in the realm of military ingenuity, where its very familiarity became an asset for deception, strategy, and survival. Its ordinary appearance made it the perfect candidate for disguise, turning a simple treat into a vessel for secrets and an instrument of unconventional warfare. Military planners and inventors recognized that chocolate's ubiquity and portability allowed it to carry hidden payloads or messages without arousing suspicion, opening avenues for both espionage and tactical advantage. One of the most fascinating applications was the use of chocolate as camouflage for critical items, such as maps or small explosives. During the war, Allied forces experimented with hollowed-out chocolate bars designed to conceal escape tools or miniature maps. Soldiers behind enemy lines could carry these innocuous-looking sweets in pockets or backpacks, confident that if inspected, the chocolate's appearance would divert attention from the more sensitive contents within. In some documented cases, bars of chocolate were engineered to hold small explosives, used in sabotage operations where conventional carrying methods would have been too risky. This blend of confectionery craftsmanship and covert utility highlights the remarkable creativity that emerged when necessity met opportunity. Espionage operations also found chocolate an unexpectedly effective medium. Intelligence agencies leveraged the wrappers and packaging of chocolate bars to transmit secret messages. Encoded instructions could be printed in invisible ink, microdots, or subtle markings disguised within the design, allowing operatives to pass critical information through seemingly benign parcels or rations. For spies operating in occupied territories, this method offered a near-perfect cover, blending into the background of ordinary life while facilitating communication that could influence the outcome of key operations. The psychological advantage was clear. While the enemy might search for conventional containers, a chocolate bar seemed entirely harmless, slipping past scrutiny in a way that traditional methods could not. Beyond espionage and sabotage, chocolate also found a practical role in survival kits used during covert missions. Specially designed chocolate bars were included in parachute packs and lifeboats, intended not only as concentrated energy sources but also for more inventive purposes. In some cases, chocolate was used to attract animals or supplement emergency rations in remote or hostile environments. For example, downed pilots or stranded soldiers could use chocolate to lure wildlife for food, ensuring an additional measure of sustenance when conventional provisions ran out. In other experiments, chocolate was combined with essential vitamins and minerals to create compact survival bars capable of sustaining individuals for extended periods while minimizing weight and space, critical factors in covert operations where every ounce mattered. Both Allied and Axis forces engaged in these inventive uses, reflecting a shared recognition of chocolate's versatility. The British Special Operations Executive, SOE, famously produced a range of covert devices disguised as everyday items, including chocolate bars, which were distributed to operatives in occupied Europe. The Germans, too, experimented with specialized chocolate rations designed for parachutists and reconnaissance units, sometimes incorporating chemicals or stimulants to enhance alertness during extended missions. The convergence of food science, engineering, and intelligence work demonstrates the extraordinary lengths to which both sides went to exploit a seemingly simple commodity for strategic advantage. Real-life examples abound of these unconventional applications. In one documented SOE operation, chocolate bars provided to agents contained miniature compasses, silk maps, or tools for cutting and escape. These items were ingeniously embedded within the layers of the bar or its packaging, allowing operatives to carry essential equipment without attracting attention. Another account from the Pacific Theater described American survival kits, including chocolate fortified with extra calories and vitamins, combined with instructions for emergency water purification and first aid, an all-in-one sustenance and survival package for soldiers isolated behind enemy lines. These innovations reflect a broader principle that would define wartime chocolate: adaptability. Its ordinary appearance and malleable form made it a blank canvas for ingenuity, turning sweetness into strategy and comfort into capability. The psychological dimension of these inventive uses should not be overlooked. Soldiers and operatives aware of these specialized chocolates experienced a unique blend of reassurance and empowerment. Holding a chocolate bar that could conceal tools, provide vital sustenance, or carry secret messages reinforced a sense of preparedness and agency in environments defined by uncertainty and danger. In this way, chocolate became more than food or morale booster. It became an instrument of cleverness and tactical advantage, a subtle yet potent extension of human ingenuity in the theater of war. The legacy of these innovations is equally remarkable. Many of the techniques developed, whether for concealment, sustenance, or survival, would inform post-war military rations and covert operations. The inventive marriage of everyday commodities with strategic purpose demonstrated the unexpected versatility of chocolate and underscored the broader lesson that even the simplest items, when thoughtfully applied, could become instruments of influence, resilience, and ingenuity. While soldiers and spies were discovering chocolate's practical and strategic uses, the machinery of production on the home front worked tirelessly to meet unprecedented demand. Major chocolate manufacturers such as Hershey, Nestle, and Cadbury played critical roles, transforming their factories and supply chains to serve both commercial and military objectives. Their contributions extended far beyond simply increasing output. They innovated production methods, adapted recipes for durability and nutrition, and coordinated closely with governments to meet the unique requirements of wartime logistics. Hershey, in particular, became synonymous with military chocolate innovation. In 1937, the company began working with the U.S. Army to develop a high-calorie, long-lasting ration bar specifically for soldiers, later known as the D-ration. Unlike conventional chocolate, the D-ration was intentionally designed to be less palatable so that soldiers would consume it only in emergencies. It packed approximately 600 calories into a compact, shelf-stable bar, capable of withstanding extreme heat and rough handling without melting or crumbling. Hershey's engineers experimented with cocoa content, sugar ratios, and stabilizers to produce a product that was nutritious, portable, and durable, qualities that would become a template for military chocolate worldwide. Across the Atlantic, Nestle and Cadbury similarly adapted their production to meet wartime needs. Nestle, leveraging its expertise in condensed milk and chocolate, produced energy-rich bars and rations for Allied forces, particularly in Europe, where mobility and supply lines were constrained. Cadbury, with its long history of innovation and ethical labor practices, worked closely with the British government to supply chocolate for troops, ration packs, and care packages. Factories operated around the clock, and engineers were tasked not only with maintaining output, but also with redesigning packaging and recipes to withstand the rigors of transport and storage. These modifications included waxed coatings, heat-resistant molds, and sturdy wrappers, small adjustments that made a tremendous difference on the battlefield. The collaboration between manufacturers and governments highlighted an intricate balance of profit, patriotism, and innovation. Companies were motivated not merely by commercial gain, but also by a sense of national duty, aware that their expertise could directly influence the effectiveness and morale of troops. Government contracts often stipulated specific nutritional and durability standards, pushing engineers to experiment with new formulations and production techniques. The resulting innovations, whether the D-ration in the United States or heat-resistant chocolate bars in Britain, illustrate a rare synergy in which corporate capability and military necessity align to produce solutions neither could achieve alone. These manufacturers also had to contend with supply challenges. Cocoa, sugar, and milk were subject to rationing, export restrictions, and disruptions caused by wartime blockades. Engineers and production managers often developed creative workarounds, such as substituting ingredients, optimizing factory processes, and implementing quality control measures that maximized output while maintaining nutritional content. This resourcefulness ensured that chocolate could reach both frontline soldiers and civilians at home, sustaining morale and bridging the gap between the domestic and military spheres of wartime life. Beyond functional innovations, these companies also recognized chocolate's symbolic importance. By ensuring a steady supply, they reinforced the connection between the home front and the front lines, reminding both soldiers and civilians that daily comforts, however small, remained within reach. Chocolate became a tangible representation of support, a means of showing that the civilian population was invested in the welfare of those fighting abroad. The psychological impact of receiving chocolate from a familiar brand, whether in a care package or a military ration, reinforced loyalty, boosted morale, and underscored the role of industry in the broader war effort. Ultimately, The contributions of Hershey, Nestle, and Cadbury illustrate how industrial ingenuity, corporate resources, and patriotic motivation coalesced to serve both practical and emotional needs during World War II. They transformed chocolate from a civilian indulgence into a versatile tool of military strategy, sustaining energy, morale, and even covert operations. By balancing production efficiency with innovative design and responsiveness to military specifications, these manufacturers ensured that chocolate could perform its remarkable dual role, feeding the body and sustaining the spirit, bridging the worlds of home and battlefield with sweetness and strategy. The versatility of chocolate in wartime extended far beyond sustenance, morale, or even unconventional military tools. It became a vital instrument in the shadowy world of espionage and special operations. Its ordinary appearance and widespread familiarity made it an ideal vehicle for concealment, enabling intelligence agencies to transport critical items without arousing suspicion. From explosive devices to microfilm, chocolate provided operatives with an ingenious means of combining utility with stealth, transforming a simple confection into a covert tool of war. The British Special Operations Executive, SOE, established to conduct sabotage and subversive operations in occupied Europe, became one of the most inventive users of chocolate for clandestine purposes. Agents often received packages containing chocolate bars that appeared entirely ordinary, but held hidden compartments or layered components. Some bars contained miniature maps, silk escape plans, or lock-picking tools, embedded seamlessly within the chocolate or its packaging. By disguising essential operational materials in something so commonplace, the SOE minimized the risk of discovery during inspections, allowing agents to carry critical equipment in plain sight. For operatives navigating heavily monitored territories, the difference between success and capture could hinge on the unassuming disguise of a chocolate bar. Espionage operations also leveraged chocolate for communication. Microfilm, a standard medium for transmitting detailed intelligence, could be concealed within wrappers or even molded directly into the structure of chocolate bars. Couriers could deliver sensitive information under the guise of delivering food or comfort to soldiers and civilians alike. The ordinary expectation that chocolate was harmless and universally appealing created a psychological advantage, providing operatives with a low-risk conduit for highly sensitive material. In some cases, coded markings were printed on packaging, conveying instructions or coordinates that would remain invisible to the untrained eye. This ingenious blend of confectionery and cryptography illustrates the depth of planning and creativity employed in covert operations. American intelligence programs also explored the possibilities of chocolate in unconventional ways. During World War II, the Office of Strategic Services, OSS, the precursor to the CIA, developed survival and escape kits that incorporated chocolate bars with hidden compartments for medical supplies, miniature compasses, or emergency rations. Downed pilots and field agents could rely on these items not only to sustain energy, but also to access essential tools for evasion and navigation. Chocolate thus became a dual-purpose instrument, sustaining life while simultaneously enabling covert operations in enemy territory. The very nature of chocolate, compact, durable, and unremarkable, allowed it to traverse front lines, borders, and checkpoints with minimal scrutiny, a property that few other everyday items could match. Specific missions illustrate chocolate's tangible impact on operational success. In one documented case, an SOE operative in France carried a chocolate bar containing microfilm detailing German troop movements. The bar passed multiple inspections by local authorities without arousing suspicion, enabling critical intelligence to reach Allied planners. In another instance, OSS operatives parachuting into occupied territory were supplied with chocolate bars containing small doses of medical supplies, including antiseptics and emergency analgesics, ensuring they could respond to injuries while maintaining mobility. These examples highlight chocolate's remarkable adaptability, transforming it into a lifeline, a communication tool, and an instrument of strategy, all wrapped in an innocuous, familiar form. Beyond concealment and communication, chocolate also reinforced morale within intelligence networks. Agents often operated in isolation, under constant threat of capture or betrayal. Receiving chocolate bars from command units or supply chains served as a reminder that they were not forgotten, that their efforts were valued, and that even in the direst circumstances, comfort and sustenance could be preserved. This subtle psychological support contributed to resilience, fostering determination and ingenuity among operatives who had to navigate hostile environments with minimal external support. The collaboration between confectioners and intelligence agencies was critical to these efforts. Manufacturers were tasked with producing chocolate that could withstand temperature extremes, resist tampering, and maintain structural integrity while concealing hidden compartments or messages. Engineers and chocolatiers worked closely with intelligence officers to ensure that the bars were both functional and inconspicuous, striking a delicate balance between practicality and deception. These efforts underscore how chocolate became an intersection of culinary expertise, industrial capability, and strategic ingenuity, demonstrating that even the simplest commodity could be transformed into a sophisticated instrument of war. Ultimately, chocolate's role in special operations and espionage exemplifies its extraordinary versatility. It was no longer merely a source of calories or comfort. It became a conduit for survival, intelligence, and covert strategy. Its unassuming nature allowed it to traverse dangerous environments, deliver vital information, and provide emotional support to those operating in isolation. Through these inventive applications, chocolate emerged as a symbol of human ingenuity in the face of adversity, a small but potent tool whose impact reached far beyond its simple sweetness, influencing the course of covert missions and, by extension, the broader war effort. While chocolate played a critical role in sustaining and empowering Allied soldiers and operatives, its potential as a tool of influence was not lost on military strategists seeking to undermine enemy morale. Psychological warfare during World War II relied on subtle, sometimes ingenious methods to destabilize opposing forces, and chocolate, an object universally associated with pleasure and comfort, proved surprisingly effective in this domain. By exploiting both human desire and familiarity, military planners could deliver a message, create doubt, or induce compliance without firing a single shot. One of the most striking applications was the use of chocolate in aerial propaganda campaigns. Allied forces occasionally dropped chocolate bars over occupied territories or enemy positions, often accompanied by leaflets carrying persuasive or demoralizing messages. The combination of a tangible reward and informational content created a powerful psychological effect. Soldiers and civilians alike were drawn to the treats, which carried with them subtle encouragement to question loyalty or consider defection. For enemy troops, the unexpected appearance of chocolate could serve as a momentary diversion, a demonstration of Allied resourcefulness, or a symbolic reminder that opposition forces were capable of penetrating defenses in ways both visible and unexpected. Chocolate also functioned as a gesture of goodwill with strategic intent. In some campaigns, Allied forces distributed sweets to local populations in occupied areas or neutral territories, fostering positive perceptions and encouraging cooperation. These seemingly minor acts helped to establish trust, improve relationships with civilians, and weaken enemy influence in contested regions. Soldiers and residents who received chocolate were reminded that support could come from unexpected sources, subtly eroding the enemy's perceived control while reinforcing the Allies' image as both generous and innovative. The psychological impact of such distribution extended beyond the immediate pleasure of the treat. It was an exercise in shaping perception, demonstrating that even simple commodities could serve as instruments of persuasion. Defections and voluntary cooperation were sometimes influenced through chocolate as well. In areas where morale among enemy troops was fragile, the strategic use of chocolate reinforced the appeal of abandoning entrenched positions or surrendering. In one notable instance, chocolate bars were included with surrender leaflets, offering a small incentive that highlighted the contrast between hardship and comfort, scarcity and abundance. The act of receiving food alongside a message emphasized the practical and emotional benefits of compliance, illustrating how a familiar, universally appreciated item could carry strategic weight. The efficacy of chocolate in psychological operations underscores the importance of understanding human behavior in warfare. While explosives and firearms shaped the physical landscape of conflict, softer tactics, such as distributing chocolate, targeted perception, motivation, and morale. The psychological leverage gained from such seemingly minor gestures could have outsized effects, influencing decisions, behavior, and allegiance in subtle but meaningful ways. Even a single chocolate bar, strategically placed, could serve as a reminder of abundance, care, or ingenuity, reinforcing the Allies' strategic narrative and demonstrating the reach of their operations. Moreover, these campaigns illustrate the dual nature of chocolate as both sustenance and symbol. It was tangible, delivering calories and energy, but it also carried intangible power, hope, temptation, and persuasion. Enemy forces confronted not just the material consequences of war, but also the subtle, psychological signals embedded in ordinary objects. Chocolate, in its simplicity, became a conduit for influence, proving that strategic thinking could transform even the most familiar comfort into a tool of operational significance. Ultimately, the use of chocolate in psychological warfare highlights the creativity and adaptability of military planners. By leveraging a commodity associated with pleasure and familiarity, they demonstrated that warfare extended beyond the battlefield, encompassing minds, emotions, and choices. In this way, chocolate exemplified the principle that small gestures, delivered thoughtfully, could yield strategic results, shaping perceptions, encouraging cooperation, and undermining enemy confidence without a single conventional strike. While chocolate offered energy, morale, and strategic utility, its widespread use was not without risks. A commodity so seemingly innocent carried hidden dangers, both for those consuming it and for those relying on it as a tool of war. Military planners quickly discovered that the very qualities that made chocolate invaluable, high caloric density, portability, and psychological appeal, could also become liabilities when mismanaged or exploited. One notable concern was overconsumption. Soldiers, drawn to chocolate as both a source of energy and a morale booster, sometimes consumed it in excess, undermining its intended purpose as a ration designed for emergencies or sustained exertion. The D-ration bars, intentionally formulated to be less palatable, were a direct response to this problem. They were calorie-rich enough to sustain soldiers, but designed so that overeating would be unlikely. Nevertheless, in field conditions, particularly when conventional food was scarce, troops often ignored the cautionary design, consuming chocolate too quickly and risking digestive issues or imbalances in nutrition. The lesson was clear. Even a life-sustaining treat could become counterproductive when human desire overrode ration discipline. Tampering and sabotage represented a more insidious danger. With chocolate's prevalence in military supply chains, both Allied and Axis planners were aware that an enemy could exploit the commodity to cause harm. There were concerns about poisoned or counterfeit chocolate entering rations, whether intended for frontline soldiers or distributed through psychological operations. The potential impact of a single compromised bar was disproportionately large, given chocolate's routine consumption and the trust soldiers placed in its safety. Strict quality control, careful sourcing of ingredients, and secure packaging became paramount, but the risk remained a persistent reminder that even the most benign-looking items could be weaponized against their own consumers. Deception extended beyond outright sabotage. In some intelligence operations, the appearance of chocolate, whether in care packages or ration bars, could mask hidden materials that, if misused, might pose a danger. Improper handling of concealed explosives or chemicals embedded in chocolate bars could injure the intended user as easily as it could aid a mission, highlighting the fine line between utility and risk. Furthermore, counterfeit chocolate, produced to mimic official rations, could disrupt supply lines, sow confusion, or diminish morale if troops realized that promised comfort and nutrition had been replaced with substandard or unsafe substitutes. These challenges underscore the high stakes of relying on a commodity as ordinary and familiar as chocolate. Its benefits were undeniable, but they came with responsibilities. careful rationing, secure handling, and constant vigilance against misuse. The very same object that could sustain energy, deliver covert messages, and lift spirits could also endanger lives when overconsumed, tampered with, or deliberately subverted. In this duality, chocolate exemplified the complexities of wartime logistics, where even a simple treat could embody both hope and hazard, comfort and risk, illustrating that ingenuity in wartime always carried hidden consequences. The conclusion of World War II did not mark the end of chocolate's remarkable journey. Rather, it cemented a cultural and technological legacy that reshaped both civilian life and military practice. Having been deployed as sustenance, morale booster, covert tool, and psychological instrument, chocolate emerged from the war with a newfound identity, no longer merely a treat or luxury, but a symbol of resilience, ingenuity, and human connection in the face of adversity. The experiences of soldiers, spies, and civilians alike created a collective memory associating chocolate with survival, innovation, and even heroism, embedding the confection into post-war cultural consciousness. In the immediate post-war period, this legacy manifested in a wave of innovations in candy and nutrition. Manufacturers drew directly from wartime lessons, adapting military formulations to suit civilian tastes and needs. Energy-dense bars designed for soldiers inspired the creation of early commercial energy bars and fortified chocolate snacks, catering to a growing public interest in convenient, high-calorie foods. The design principles perfected during the war, durable packaging, heat resistance, and nutritional balance, became standard in the industry, influencing both chocolate production and broader snack innovation. Consumers could enjoy treats that were portable, long-lasting, and energy-rich, reflecting a technological sophistication previously reserved for military applications. The association between chocolate and resilience extended beyond its physical properties to symbolic and emotional dimensions. Stories of soldiers relying on chocolate to sustain energy during grueling marches, or of spies carrying critical messages hidden within bars, reinforced the perception of chocolate as a conduit of human ingenuity and perseverance. Post-war literature, memoirs, and popular media often highlighted these anecdotes, contributing to a narrative in which chocolate was more than confectionery. It was a witness to courage, a companion in hardship, and a tool of creative problem-solving. For civilians, this reinforced the idea that everyday objects could hold extraordinary significance when employed with purpose and imagination. Military rations themselves underwent transformation informed by wartime experience. The innovations of Hershey, Nestle, and Cadbury, as well as smaller experimental efforts, influenced the design of standardized rations for future conflicts. Compact, nutrient-dense, and palatably engineered bars became staples in both training and field operations, integrating lessons about energy content, shelf life, and portability. The war had demonstrated that chocolate could provide not only caloric support, but also psychological reinforcement, an insight that shaped the development of modern military and emergency rations well into the late 20th century. Culturally, chocolate's legacy extended into the home front and popular imagination. Civilians who had witnessed the strategic distribution of chocolate to soldiers or received care packages themselves developed enduring associations between the sweet treat and national solidarity, compassion, and ingenuity. The act of sharing chocolate became emblematic of communal support, bridging divides between home and battlefield, civilians and soldiers, ordinary life and extraordinary circumstances. This emotional resonance contributed to the continued prominence of chocolate in celebrations, commemorations, and consumer culture, ensuring that its wartime role remained embedded in collective memory. Ultimately, World War II transformed chocolate from a simple indulgence into a multifaceted symbol and practical instrument. Its wartime applications reshaped production techniques, inspired new products, influenced military strategy, and left a lasting imprint on public consciousness. The lessons learned, from ration engineering and covert applications to morale boosting and psychological impact, demonstrate how even the most familiar objects can acquire extraordinary significance in times of crisis. Chocolate emerged as a testament to human adaptability and creativity, a reminder that resilience, innovation, and shared comfort can be found in the most unexpected forms, leaving a legacy that endured long after the guns fell silent. As the dust of World War II settled, the story of chocolate stood as a paradoxical testament to both human vulnerability and ingenuity. A commodity once reserved for indulgence had traversed an extraordinary path, evolving into an instrument of strategy, survival, and morale. Its transformation, from a treat savored in quiet moments to a tool that could influence armies, sustain operatives, and even shape perceptions, illustrates how ordinary objects can assume extraordinary significance in times of crisis. Chocolate, in its simplicity, became a mirror reflecting the resourcefulness, adaptability, and creativity that defined human endeavor in the midst of conflict. The duality of chocolate as both comfort and weapon captures the essence of wartime experience. For soldiers, it provided nourishment when rations were limited, a burst of energy during physically exhausting campaigns, and a psychological anchor in environments defined by fear, uncertainty, and isolation. For operatives in espionage missions, chocolate became a covert courier, concealing tools, maps, and messages beneath a familiar, unassuming surface. Its presence in care packages and survival kits bridged the emotional and practical needs of those on the front lines, demonstrating that sustenance and morale were inseparable in the calculus of human endurance. The duality of chocolate as both comfort and weapon captures the essence of wartime experience. For soldiers, it provided nourishment when rations were limited, a burst of energy during physically exhausting campaigns, and a psychological anchor in environments defined by fear, uncertainty, and isolation. For operatives in espionage missions, chocolate became a covert courier, concealing tools, maps, and messages beneath a familiar, unassuming surface. Its presence in care packages and survival kits bridged the emotional and practical needs of those on the front lines, demonstrating that sustenance and morale were inseparable in the calculus of human endurance. Beyond individual experience, chocolate's utility extended into broader strategy and innovation. Military planners leveraged its portability, caloric density, and symbolic appeal, transforming it into a tactical asset that could influence behavior, bolster spirits, and even serve as a vehicle for psychological operations against enemy forces. The collaboration with major manufacturers ensured that chocolate was engineered for durability and reliability, blending industrial capability with military necessity. These coordinated efforts reveal a remarkable convergence of science, engineering, and human empathy, showing that innovation often arises from the simplest of starting points. Yet, chocolate's journey also highlights the inherent risks and complexities of relying on a familiar object in extraordinary circumstances. Overconsumption, tampering, and sabotage remind us that even seemingly innocuous items carry consequences when embedded within high-stakes systems. The very qualities that made chocolate effective, its appeal, portability, and caloric richness, could also be liabilities if misused. This tension between benefit and risk underscores the nuanced role of chocolate as both a comfort and a weapon, reflecting the broader unpredictability and ingenuity of war itself. Ultimately, the legacy of chocolate in World War II is far more than a collection of anecdotes or technological innovations. It is a narrative of resilience, creativity, and interconnected human experience. From trenches to intelligence networks, from factories to home front care packages, chocolate traversed boundaries of function, geography, and psychology, embodying both practicality and symbolism. It reminds us that even in the darkest hours, human ingenuity can transform the ordinary into the extraordinary, finding new purpose in familiar forms. In the sweet, unassuming chocolate bar, the paradox of war and humanity converged, a source of comfort, a tool of strategy, and a symbol of the enduring capacity to adapt, survive, and innovate.